What have been the funding, liquidity, and capital structure lessons from COVID times? And perhaps Yang, you can take that one first.
Yeah, well, from the outset of the pandemic, of course, like many companies, liquidity becomes front and centered, and treasury function becomes massively under the spotlight. And everyone is asking the question, like, what can go wrong? Because it's truly unprecedented. It's different from 2008, 2009, where, the market is drying up and, funding generally is a struggle. But I think this pandemic has impacted different industries in a very different way. But in a way, I think it's fair to say nobody from the outset know what was truly about to happen. So as a food industry in my company, for example, we were wondering how about can we truly safeguard the production aspect? Can we make sure that our food can be can find the right tracks and go into the right places? So many things were disrupted and in a very rapid pace. So the first question is the liquidity. Where can you find liquidity in the worst case scenario, right? So we did a lot of scenario planning, distress modeling, and trying to find pockets of liquidity. The usual suspect and the normal playbook is how much cash we have on hand. Then you rapidly go to what is the working capital, what are the capital priorities, what external fundings you can find, including our revolvers, including the mark-to-market, if you happen to be in the money, and including other, working capital financing that you potentially could put in place, or, unsecured line or whatnot. And think the liquidity is the number one question that every industry at that time we were wondering what's about to happen. It's just to plan for the worst, and then putting quickly in place the measures that you can safeguard the bloodline, which is cash. And the second, I think there's something that to be said of having a crisp dialogue in terms of capital allocation priority, so that from the board, from the executive, from the treasury function, we didn't need to scramble at the 11th hour to always have a tap if things do go wrong, and what are the things that you can. For the first one to go as a trade-off, what are the things that you would preserve under any circumstances? So we have those kind of conversations internally several times in a year, and we just kept that fresh. We know if things do go wrong, and most of the times the things don't, but if things do go wrong, what are the trade-offs that we need to put in place? So that has been a very good, helpful playbook for us to refer to.
Thank you. Andrew?
It's a great question. I think I'd probably start by reiterating one of the points Yang made. I think it's the benefit of contingency planning and thinking ahead of time, because in terms of the last year, clearly things move very fast, and a number of factors at play. So I think the value of contingency planning and planning ahead of time clearly hugely important and came to the fore. I think sort of a few other observations. Clearly, every crisis or every change in market is different. Different responses came forward. We obviously saw significant central bank government support as well, and real resilience around the board as well. I think also it's demonstrated the value of different pools and having access to different pools of liquidity as well, and a real understanding and the closeness of relationships between corporates and their finance providers really shone through as well. I think those relationships were deep and established, clearly allowed sort of action at speed and access to advice at short notice as well. So I think sort of also emphasised the real value of deep relationships and close understanding between financiers and borrowers or market participants.
I just want to echo this particular point that Andrew mentioned. I think strategic banking relationship is often underrated, but is I describe one of the superpowers of treasury functions to foster a long-term strategic relationship where the relationship is fair, it's sustainable, and that goes a long way, particularly when crises happen, when the wallet can be at times needs to be prioritized from one account to the other. This really helps when you constantly have this dialogue with your banking partners.